Hasta la vista, baby. Hi guys, David O'Sullivan here, and in this video I'm going to be giving you my picks for the top 10 best action movies of all time. To coincide with the release of John Wick Chapter 2, I thought now would be the perfect opportunity to give you my rundown of the top 10 best action movies of all time. These are my personal preferences. You may not agree with this list, you may have a different list, you may have different films on your list, and that's great, that's fine. I'd love to know what your picks are in the comments down below. But in this video, it's going to be my picks for the films that I consider to be the best action movies ever made. I absolutely love the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Gladiator, but I wouldn't consider them straight up full-on action movies, and I'm going to save them for a separate list, the top 10 most epic movies of all time. So I consider them to be more epics than action films, so they won't be making an appearance on this list, but I do really love those films. And also some honourable mentions before I get to my top 10. The original John Wick and The Guest are two really great modern action movies. I love them, I think they're both really great. And as much as I would love to find room for them on this list, because this is more of kind of like the top 10 greats of the genre, even though I really love those two films, I think they're really great, I wouldn't consider them kind of greats of the genre. So they are really good, I do really like them, but in the end, they just missed out on a place on my list. Getting into the top 10 now, and at number 10 we got Dredd, the comic book remake from 2012. I absolutely love Dredd. I think it's very underrated, very underappreciated. It kind of flew under the radar when it came out. Not a lot of people went to see it. It kind of flopped at the box office, I think. I don't know if we're going to get a sequel or not, but as far as the film itself is concerned, I absolutely love it. I think it works really great as this awesome standalone film. I like it so much, I kind of hope there isn't a sequel in a way. I mean, I'd love to see a sequel and see them expand this world in sequels or maybe in a Netflix series, but I love the film so much, I kind of don't want them to ruin it with sequels. We saw what happened with like Die Hard, The Matrix. I love Dredd so much as it's just own separate standalone film. I kind of hope it doesn't have sequels in a way, but yeah, I just absolutely love Dredd. It's one of my favourite comic book movies. I think one of the best sci-fi action films of recent years. I absolutely love it. I think it deserves so much more love than it gets, and so yeah, Dredd at number 10. Coming in at number 9 we've got a Mission Impossible film, and I decided to just choose one Mission Impossible film for this list, and I've chosen Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol, I would say, is my favourite. Rogue Nation, the latest one, is also really great, but for me, Ghost Protocol is the one that kind of reinvigorated the franchise. Brad Bird brought us this film, his first live action film, and he did such a great job, because Mission Impossible 3 was good. J.J. Abrams did a good job with that, but it wasn't great. But then we got Ghost Protocol, and it really just took everyone off guard and blew us all away. And it was such a great return to form for the Mission Impossible franchise, and then Christopher McQuarrie followed it up with Rogue Nation, and I think Rogue Nation is really good, but for me, Ghost Protocol was so good and such an unexpected surprise that Rogue Nation was kind of slightly underwhelming, even though I still really like Rogue Nation. I think Ghost Protocol really knocked it out of the park, so great, because none of us were expecting it to be as good as it was, and I absolutely loved it. The whole team, Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, he's just so great in that role, doing like all of his own stunts is insane. Jeremy Renner, Simon Pegg, great cast, that great team that was assembled there and then carried over into Rogue Nation. So as much as I like Rogue Nation, it owes a lot to Ghost Protocol and what was kind of set up and established there, and how it all works so well in Ghost Protocol. And of course the action sequences, the amazing Burj Khalifa, Tom Cruise on the side of the building, I mean, that is just awesome. And a lot of people have said that it hits such a height there that it only goes down from there, but I would argue that isn't the case, because I love the finale as well. It is just gripping, intense, just nail-biting, heart-pounding stuff. I just love that climax. I think it works just as well as the rest of the film, the rest of the action set pieces, and I think it's probably the best Mission Impossible film we've had so far. So at number 9, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Coming in at number 8, we have the ultimate badass, Jason Bourne, and I decided to choose one Bourne film again for this list, and the one I settled on was the Bourne Ultimatum. Although I love all three of the Bourne films in the original Bourne trilogy, Identity, Supremacy. Supremacy may even be my favourite, I really love that one, but if we're talking about best action movies, I would say Bourne Ultimatum is the best as far as the action is concerned, because Bourne Identity is almost a psychological character drama in a way. The second one's almost like a thriller, but the third one is just a straight up full on action movie, and it really delivers on the action. Matt Damon again in that role as Jason Bourne, another iconic performance of an actor in an action movie role, right up there with, you know, Ethan Hunt, James Bond, all those guys. Such a great role for Matt Damon. He really, you know, you really buy into him as that character. And yeah, I just absolutely love the Bourne films for the action. It always feels so visceral and real. The fight choreography, the handheld camera work. I love the handheld camera. Okay, it can get a little bit shaky at times, but it gives it that kind of visceral, kind of realistic edge where it feels like you're there. It feels almost documentary in a way. It feels like it's actually really happening in front of your eyes. And it makes it all the more kind of urgent and dynamic. And I absolutely love it. So, at number 8 is the Bourne Ultimatum. Coming in at number 7 now, this is a lot of kind of like greatest hits of each franchise, but I've got another big franchise action hero movie here, and it is James Bond, and the one I settled on was Casino Royale. I love James Bond as a character. I love a lot of the Bond films. I'm more of a fan of the newer movies than I am the old movies. You know, Quantum of Solace aside, I love, you know, Casino Royale, Skyfall, even Spectre I liked. Skyfall probably is my favourite. If we're talking about which is my favourite Bond film we've ever had, it's probably Skyfall. I think Skyfall is the best Bond film we've ever had. But as far as action is concerned, it's got to be Casino Royale, and that's a very close second for me, just under Skyfall. Casino Royale, how they introduced us to this new Bond in Daniel Craig, so great. A really great opening scene there. It's almost harkening back to the kind of classic film noir times with the Dutch tilt angles and the black and white, and how they introduce us to Daniel Craig's Bond in that just awesome opening scene, and how they intertwine the kind of shooting the gun at the camera in that scene when he's fighting that guy. Such a great way to open the new introduction to a new Bond. Absolutely love it. And as I said, the action, Daniel Craig is really great in that role, and you really buy into him as this tough badass who's just relentless and unstoppable, and they really gave James Bond a kind of gritty, kind of real world edge, and you can tell it was very influenced by the Bourne movies, but it's great. The action there, that opening scene with the parkour and the free running is so great. One of the best scenes in the film, and it was just so cool to watch. I absolutely love Casino Royale, one of the best Bond films we've ever had. Such a great action movie. Coming in at number 6, we have another classic of the genre, I would say, and it is The Matrix. Released back in 1999, obviously The Matrix, it is sci-fi action, there's a lot of sci-fi elements to it, it is in a sci-fi world, it is a sci-fi concept, so to speak, but it is really a straight up, full-on action movie. It is really all about the action. There's some great action scenes that go down in this film, the whole shootout in the hallway there, so cool, and it was like really groundbreaking for its time. 1999, the special effects, the visuals employed with this film, what the Wachowskis were able to do, how they really kind of changed the game with this for the genre, and how kind of basically every film just tried to copy The Matrix after it came out. There's so many kind of mediocre films that came out in the early 2000s that you can just tell were just trying to copy The Matrix and do the same thing, and it just doesn't work. Probably one of my favourite sci-fi action films. Keanu Reeves in the role of Neo, he's really great, probably one of his best roles, if not his best role to date. I do really like Point Break as well, but Point Break's more of a guilty pleasure kind of film, where The Matrix is a genuinely kind of fantastic film. Great cast there, Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, Carrie-Anne Moss, you know, and it's such a cool concept as well, about the whole kind of, we're in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, but everyone's kind of in these chambers, being controlled by artificial intelligence, thinking they're still alive in the real world. I absolutely love that concept, and it's such a cool action film. So there we go, The Matrix. Getting into the top 5 now, and at number 5 we have more of a modern film, and it is Mad Max Fury Road. Granted, the film only came out like a couple of years ago, but the film is just so good, it had to make it on the list. I know it's only at number 5, but the fact that it is so good speaks to how high up on the list it managed to get, because I would have put it higher, but there's just some kind of undeniable classics that have to be higher than Mad Max. But I think Fury Road is really great. I don't think it's overrated. I don't think it was overblown or overhyped. It really is a genuinely great film. I don't think it did that amazingly at the box office, actually. Obviously it did really well with awards, getting a lot of nominations, but yeah, it is a genuinely great film. You could argue, well, it's just relentless action, non-stop, over and over, and it is, but it's really well done action, really well filmed, really well executed, really well choreographed. It's filmed in a way where you can see everything go down, you can really appreciate it, and you can really take in the awe-inspiring stunt work and fight choreography and action set pieces that are going down, because it's filmed in such a spectacular way. Seriously, this film is breathtaking from a visual standpoint. The scene where they drive into the tornado and there's that big kind of car chase, all that shit going on, and the way it's filmed, and the score as well. Such a great score from Junkie XL, I think it is, and the music is just absolutely incredible. It's shot in such a phenomenal way. I absolutely love this film. A really great, quite intelligent film. There's a lot of things, that a lot of little finer details that a lot of people might not pick up on. On face value, it does just look like a big generic action movie, but there's so much more to it than that. And you really kind of watch it over and over again. You can really pick up on these small finer details beneath the surface that really make it such a great, rewarding experience to watch. So Mad Max Fury Road had to make my list at number 5. Getting into the top 4 now, and at number 4 I've got another classic, and it is Aliens. I absolutely love the Alien films. Well, the first two, for me it's kind of like Terminator. I just count the first two, you know. But even though I do like Prometheus, and I do like what Ridley Scott's doing with these newer kind of prequel movies, but the first Alien was really great. It was a really great suspense horror thriller, but what the second film did was remarkable in that it was a really great follow-up and continuation of what was set up and established in that first film, but it was a very different kind of film. Whereas the first one was this kind of contained suspense thriller, the second one is just this awesome epic action movie, and that's what's so great about Aliens, you know, and that's what so many franchises don't do nowadays. I can't really think of any other franchise where the first film and the second film are so completely different to one another, but really work well together as, you know, a film and then a sequel. I can't think of anything else, because it is a really great follow-up to Alien, but at the same time they don't just do the same thing, they open it up and it is a really great epic action movie. This film, okay, you could say it's a sci-fi film, and it is. There's aliens or other worlds, but really at its core it's a great 80s action movie, and it is just so good. One of the best. Came out 1986, over 30 years old now, and it still holds up. What James Cameron was able to do with this film, James Cameron is just so great. He's just so great at coming in and doing the second film in a franchise, you know, what he did with Aliens and Terminator 2, even though he did the first Terminator as well, but he's so great at coming in and doing these really big action movie sequels, and what he did with Aliens was really great before T2. And of course, Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley, one of the best kind of female action heroes of all time, and she's so great because it's not the fact that she's a woman that makes her so great. You know, obviously she's a female, really great, strong female character, but what's so great about her as a character is that she's just a badass. It isn't, you know, the fact that she's a woman, it doesn't really have anything to do with it. She's just a badass in general, and she just happens to be a woman as well, and she's just so great in that role. And yeah, I absolutely love Aliens, a really great 80s action movie. So there we go, Aliens. Coming in at number 3 now, and this film had to make the top 3. The films above this I kind of like more, even though this arguably could be the best just straight up action movie, but it had to be up there. And at number 3 it's Die Hard from 1988. I just rewatched this film again last night, and it really is great. You know, it's one of the best kind of action movies, in that it's like Dredd, you know, it's very contained just in this apartment block. But what's so great about Die Hard is that you think it would be a concept that would get boring quickly, but it doesn't. It's consistently interesting and engaging, and it's one of those films where it's set up in a way where it takes its time to set up the characters and establish the world and what's going on in the story, so you actually care and you're invested when the action goes down. It's not just constant action over and over again, but when the action does go down, it's just so great. And it's one of those action movies where when the action starts, it's good, but it just gets better and better and better as it goes along. It's one of those action movies that just starts with a bang and then just escalates as it goes on, and it just finishes with such a bang. It really is. I can't think of any other action movie aside from maybe the top 2 where it starts off good and it just gets better and better and better. Because a lot of movies, you watch them and they kind of waver as they go along. Die Hard is just so great. It's constantly kind of firing all cylinders. The characters are really great. John McClane, Bruce Willis is so great in that role. And Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber, one of the most iconic portrayals of a movie villain we've ever seen on the big screen. He is just so great in that role, and it really is a great kind of character drama almost, how it's kind of like head to head between John McClane and Hans Gruber. And obviously there's that great scene when he tries to fool him that he's one of the hostages. But anyway, I'm going on here. The characters are so great. You're really invested in the story and what's going on. So well executed, so well filmed. One of the best action movies we've ever had. So there we go, Die Hard. Coming in at number 2 now, and this is one of my favourite films of all time, and it is T2 Judgment Day. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, again, James Cameron, and what he was able to do with this film, because again, I like the first Terminator. It's really great, more of a kind of a horror, thriller, almost monster movie, kind of like with Alien actually. But then with T2, he just really went for it and made this massive, big, epic, blockbuster action movie, because the first one is more of a kind of lo-fi kind of science fiction thriller, whereas T2 Judgment Day is just a straight up kind of big blockbuster action movie, and it is so great, so much fun to watch. A great follow-up to the Terminator and how they flip things on their head, where Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator is now the good guy, but he's still this kind of relentless, deadly, evil kind of killing machine. He's been reprogrammed to be on the good side, and again teaming up with John Connor, Sarah Connor, and the T-1000 as well. Robert Patrick is so great in that role, such a silent, deadly performance there as the unstoppable killing machine, the T-1000 liquid metal Terminator. Again, another one that was very ahead of its time. The special effects and the visual effects, the CGI that was employed within this film, early 90s, really ahead of its time. James Cameron really pushed the boat out, but he did a fantastic job, and it still holds up as a fantastic action film 25 years later, however long it is. It really is better than most action movies that we get nowadays. You know, you want a great action movie, go back to the 80s and 90s, the heyday, the golden age of action movies, where they were awesome, hardcore, violent, badass. They didn't hold back, they just went for it. I love the action movies of the 80s and 90s. T2 Judgment Day was really great as well, still holds up now. So Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And finally, coming in at number 1, we've got my personal favourite. An argument could be made that this isn't really a straight up action movie, but a lot of films on this list are kind of action combined with something else. There's kind of action movie is a very broad term. A lot of films kind of fall under that umbrella. A lot of films combine action with other things, and this is an action film. So at number 1, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. I absolutely love the Indiana Jones films. I grew up with the Indiana Jones films, and in my opinion, the Indiana Jones films are the best action adventure movies ever made. Yes, it's action adventure, not straight up action, but the action is really great. And the one that's going to be on this list at number 1 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love the other two, Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. I absolutely love The Last Crusade. That may even be my personal favourite, and I really like Temple of Doom as well. I think it's one of the best action adventure trilogies of all time. Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think, is the best, because it's the original, the one that started it all. Without Raiders of the Lost Ark, you wouldn't get Temple of Doom or Last Crusade. Such a great trilogy there. I love these 3 films. Yeah, it's a trilogy. But yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark is so great. 1981, so one of the earliest, may even be the earliest on this list actually. And Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, one of the most iconic movie characters of all time. He's so great in that role, and there were so many great action sequences in Raiders of the Lost Ark as well. If you look at that car chase, or that chase with the truck and the car, and Indiana Jones gets thrown off the truck and then goes underneath it and hanging onto it, it is really a great, really well choreographed action sequences. So there's some really great action set pieces in this film. Of course, I can't talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark without mentioning the iconic opening scene, one of the most iconic opening scenes to any film we've ever had, probably, where they're running away from the boulder after he's stolen the golden statue. Such a great opening scene. And all the Indiana Jones movies have really great opening and closing scenes. It just really starts off in such a great way, how it kind of harkens back to the kind of the action adventure serials of, you know, Spielberg and Lucas's youths, and how they were kind of harking back to that, like Tintin. And it is just really cool. You get straight into it. really great story. It's almost, the opening scene almost works as a really good, great standalone adventure in its own right. There's so much to love about the Indiana Jones films. There's these really kind of fun, swashbuckling kind of action adventure romps that are just so much fun to watch. You know, I can watch them over and over again and I never get bored. Like every year I'm watching them all the time and they just never get old. You know, every year they're just as entertaining to watch. So for me, the Indiana Jones movies are the best action movies of all time. I absolutely love them. So there we go, at number 1, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And there we have it, that wraps up my top 10 best action movies of all time. What are your picks for the films you think are the best action movies? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this, be sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.